The emergency signal came through the Deep Space Network at 300 hours Galactic Standard Time. The message was broken and full of static, but the fear in the alien voice was clear to anyone who heard it. This is Volani Colony 7. Under attack, ships everywhere. They're taking our children. Please, someone help us. The transmission cut to silence. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, the emergency committee gathered around a large circular table. Representative Thalwyn, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, looked at the data screen with cold eyes. "The Volani again," he said with a tired voice. "They chose to settle in the outer rim. They knew the risks." Other council members nodded. The Quillari representative made a clicking sound with his beak. "The Krex Empire has been expanding for months. This was expected." "What about sending aid?" asked the young Zephyrian delegate, her silver scales catching the light. Thalwyn waved one of his hands. "We cannot risk council ships for every colony that makes poor choices. The Volani are not even council members." The meeting room fell quiet. Outside the tall windows, ships moved through space like slow metal fish. The council members looked at their data pads and made notes. No one seemed to care about the crying children in the message. "Motion to table this issue pending further review," Thalwyn said. "Seconded," came voices from around the table. The Volani distress call was filed away with hundreds of other requests for help that would never come. But the signal did not only reach the council chambers. 3,000 light-years away, on Earth's Orbital Defense Station, Communications Officer Park Minho sat at his desk drinking cold coffee. The night shift was usually quiet. Most of the galaxy slept while Earth turned in its lonely corner of space. Minho was young for his job, only 25 years old. He had joined Earth's Space Defense Force because he wanted to see the stars. Instead, he spent most nights listening to empty space and filing reports about space junk. The emergency signal hit his console like a hammer blow. The computer systems lit up with red warnings. Automatic translation software worked fast to change the alien words into Korean, then English. Minho put on his headphones and played the message again. "This is Volani Colony 7. Under attack. Ships everywhere. They're taking our children. Please, someone help us." Minho's hands shook as he turned up the volume. In the background of the alien voice, he could hear other sounds. Explosions. Screaming. The sound of buildings falling down. He played the message a third time. The fear in the alien voice made his chest tight. These were not soldiers calling for backup. These were families being torn apart. Minho looked at his computer screen. Protocol said all alien distress calls must go to the Galactic Council first. Earth was still new to galactic politics. They were supposed to follow the rules, but the rules meant paperwork, meetings, committees, time that the Volani did not have. Minho made a choice that would change everything. He copied the signal to his personal drive, then sent it directly to Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-hyun's private communication line. The message header read, "Urgent, alien distress call, immediate attention required." Then he sat back and waited. Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-hyun was not sleeping when the message arrived. The 50-year-old commander rarely slept more than 4 hours at a time. He was in his office on Luna Base, reading reports about new ship designs. His personal communicator beeped with the urgent message tone. Tae-hyun frowned. Very few people had access to his private line. He opened the file and listened to the Volani distress call. His face grew dark as he heard the fear and pain in the alien voice. He played it again, then called his senior staff. Emergency meeting in Conference Room Alpha. Now. 20 minutes later, Tae-hyun sat at the head of a metal table. Around him were his most trusted officers. Tactical Officer Lee Hyun-woo, a thin man with sharp eyes. Xenobiologist Choi Na-young, who studied alien life forms. Intelligence Chief Song Kyung-hee, who knew more about galactic politics than anyone else on Earth. "Listen to this," Tae-hyun said, and played the Volani message. The room fell silent when it ended. Lee Hyun-woo was the first to speak. "How long ago was this sent?" 14 hours, Tae-hyun replied. "It took time to reach us through the deep space network." Choi Na-young pulled up data on her tablet. The Vellani are a peaceful species, herbivores. They have never developed weapons beyond basic tools. They're completely helpless against any military force. What about the Cries Empire? Hyun-woo asked. Song Kyung-hee's face was grim. The Cries are slavers. They capture entire populations and sell them to work in mines or factories. They've been expanding their territory for the past 2 years. And the Galactic Council? Taehyun asked, though he already knew the answer. They'll debate it for weeks, Song Kyung-hee said. Maybe months. The Council doesn't like to take risks. They'll probably just set up refugee camps after the Vellani are already dead or enslaved. Taehyun stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see Earth's Third Fleet docked at the spaceport. 12 ships of different sizes. Destroyers that could move fast and hit hard. Cruisers with heavy weapons. The flagship dreadnought Seoul's Fury, big enough to carry 1,000 Marines. Sir, Hyun-woo said carefully, Earth is not supposed to act without Council approval. We could face serious consequences. Taehyun turned back to his officers. Tell me something, Lee. If someone broke into your home and was hurting your family, would you wait for the police to fill out paperwork? No, sir. The Vellani are not our species. They're not even our allies, but they're people. They have children. They have families. And right now they're being slaughtered while the galaxy's leaders sit in comfortable chairs and talk about protocols. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what the Admiral was thinking. It was written on his face like words, on a page. Sir, Choi Na-young said softly. The Cries have 40 ships in that system. We would be badly outnumbered. Taehyun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The Cries have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. He walked back to the table and put his hands on the metal surface. The Council calls us dangerous Deathworlders. They're afraid of us because we come from a planet that tries to kill everything that lives on it. They think we're violent and unpredictable. Maybe they're right, Hyun-woo said. Maybe they are, Taehyun agreed. But there's something the Council doesn't understand. Yes, we're dangerous, yes, we're violent, but we choose who we point that violence at. He stood up straight, his decision made. Prep the Third Fleet for immediate departure. Full combat load. We leave in 6 hours. Sir, Song Kyung-hee said, what do I tell the Council when they ask what we're doing? Taehyun was already walking toward the door. Tell them we don't send help. We send ships. As the Admiral left the room, his officers looked at each other. They all knew this moment would be remembered. Earth was about to show the galaxy what humans really were, and the Cries Empire was about to learn why the rest of the galaxy feared the Deathworlders. The Galactic Council emergency session began 6 hours after Admiral Taehyun gave his orders. Representatives from 12 different species sat in the great circular chamber, their voices echoing off the high ceiling. Ambassador Yoon Ji-ho represented Earth. He was a calm man in his 50s with gray hair and patient eyes. He had spent 5 years learning to work with alien politicians. Today, that patience was being tested. The Vellani situation requires immediate action, said the Kalari representative, his beak clicking nervously. But we must be careful. The Cries Empire is powerful. Representative Thalwin leaned back in his chair. We have discussed this already. The Vellani chose to settle in dangerous space. We cannot risk Council ships for every colony that makes poor choices. What about humanitarian aid? Asked the young Zephyrian delegate. Yes, Thalwin waved his 4 hands. We can send medical supplies after the situation calms down, perhaps set up refugee camps on safer worlds. Ambassador Yoon listened to the debate with growing anger. These beings talked about the Vellani like they were discussing weather reports, numbers on a screen instead of living people with families and dreams. How long will this debate take? Yoon asked. These things require careful consideration, Thalwin replied. We must form committees, study the legal issues, perhaps in 2 or 3 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks? Yoon stood up from his chair. The Vellani will be dead or enslaved by then. That is unfortunate, Thalwin said with no emotion in his voice. But the Council cannot act rashly. We have procedures to follow. Yoon looked around the chamber at faces that showed no urgency, no compassion, These representatives would debate while children died. They would form committees while families were torn apart. He made his decision. "While you debate," Yoon said, his voice cutting through the chamber like a knife. "We act. Earth's third fleet is already en route to Volani space." The chamber exploded in shocked voices. Thalwin's blue skin turned darker with anger. "The humans cannot act without council approval. This is against all protocols." "Your protocols," Yoon replied, "are not worth the lives they cost." Council Chairman Vexitar, an ancient being with skin like tree bark, raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador Yoon, Earth must recall its ships immediately. Independent military action violates council law." Yoon reached over and turned off his communication device. The holographic image of the council chamber disappeared, leaving him alone in his office on the human embassy ship. He leaned back in his chair and smiled for the first time in hours. Meanwhile, 300 light-years away, Earth's third fleet prepared for the jump to hyperspace. 12 ships hung in the darkness like metal sharks waiting to strike. Captain Song Min-jae stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Soul's Fury. She was 38 years old and had commanded ships for over a decade. Her crew trusted her completely. "All ships report ready, Captain," said Communications Officer Bae Ji-won. Around the Soul's Fury, the other ships of the Third Fleet waited for orders. The destroyers Busan Blade and Incheon Strike, the cruisers Daegu Thunder and Gwangju Storm. Support ships carrying marines, medical supplies, and repair equipment. "Captain," said Navigation Officer Lim Jae-won, "I have the jump coordinates locked in. We can reach Volani space in 72 hours. Song Min-jae nodded. 72 hours was faster than any council relief effort could even be organized. The aliens would still be forming committees when the human ships arrived. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. Bae Ji-won's fingers moved over her control panel. "Channel open, Captain." Song Min-jae's voice carried to every ship in the fleet. "This is Captain Song. You all know why we're here. Somewhere in the darkness ahead of us, innocent people are dying. The galaxy's leaders have decided those lives are not worth saving. We disagree." On the destroyer Busan Blade, Commander Oh Sung-ho listened with his crew around him. His weapons officer Yong Taeyong checked the torpedo tubes one more time. Shield technician Kim Soo-young ran diagnostics on the defensive systems. "The Krex Empire thinks they can take whatever they want," Song Min-jae continued. "They think no one will stop them. They're about to learn they were wrong." In the fighter bays of the carrier Jeju Pride, pilot Shin Yuna climbed into her cockpit. She was only 24, but she could fly through an asteroid field like it was empty space. Around her, other pilots prepared their ships for combat. "We are humans," Song Min-jae's voice echoed through the fleet. "The galaxy calls us Deathworlders. They say we're too violent, too dangerous. Today we show them what dangerous really means." Dr. Han Suman listened from the medical bay of the Soul's Fury. She was preparing field hospitals and emergency surgery equipment. Unlike the Council's refugee camps, the humans were planning for victory, not evacuation. "The Krex have 40 ships," Song Min-jae said. "They have more guns, more armor, more experience. But they have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of." In the engineering section, Kang Woo-jin ran final checks on the ship's systems. The Soul's Fury was built to take damage and keep fighting. Earth's engineers had learned from studying wreckage of alien battles. Human ships were built differently, tougher, more aggressive. "All ships prepare for jump," Song Min-jae ordered. "Jump in 3, 2, 1, mark." The Third Fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving empty space behind them. Back on Earth's orbital station, Communications Officer Park Min-ho sat at his desk. His hand still shook when he thought about the Volani distress call. He had broken protocol by sending it directly to Admiral Taehyun. His career might be over. But then new signals started coming through his equipment. Not distress calls this time. These were different. The first came from a mining colony on the edge of hegemony space. "This is Copper Station 7. We heard what the humans are doing for the Volani. If the raiders come for us, will you help us too?" The second came from a farming world that the Council had forgotten. Human ships, this is New Garden Colony. We have children here. If trouble comes, will you answer our call? More signals followed. Dozens of them. Colonies and outposts that had been ignored by the Galactic Council. Worlds that had been told they were on their own. All of them asking the same question. Park Min-ho realized something important was happening. The old system was breaking down. Instead of waiting for the Council to debate and form committees, people were reaching out directly to Earth. He forwarded all the messages to Admiral Taehyun with a simple note. Sir, I think we're going to need more ships. On Luna Base, Admiral Taehyun read the messages with growing amazement. In just a few hours, Earth had gone from being a minor member of the galactic community to the focus of hope for dozens of forgotten worlds. He called his staff together again. It seems our reputation is spreading, he told them. Half the rim. Colonies are asking for our protection. What do we tell them? Asked Song Kyung-hee. Taehyun thought about the Villani children crying in the distress call. He thought about the council representatives sitting in their comfortable chairs, talking about procedures while people died. We tell them the truth, he said. We don't send help. We don't send aid. We send ships. And when we arrive, the threats end. In the depths of hyperspace, the Third Fleet raced toward Villani space. Behind them, the galaxy was changing. The age of council debates and committee meetings was ending. The age of human protection was about to begin. But first, they had to prove that Earth's reputation was deserved. The Krex Empire was waiting, and 40 ships was a lot of firepower. The humans were about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could really do. The Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Villani system. What Captain Song Min-jae saw through the main screen made her stomach twist with anger. Krex battle groups surrounded the planet like metal vultures. 40 ships of different sizes hung in orbit, their weapons pointed down at the world below. Bright flashes of light showed where they were bombing cities and towns. Sensors are picking up refugee ships, reported Navigation Officer Lim Jae-won. His young face was pale. Dozens of them. Most are damaged. Some are breaking apart. On the screen, small Villani civilian ships tried to escape toward the outer system. Many had holes torn in their hulls. Others moved slowly, their engines dying. The lucky ones had made it to the edge of the system. The unlucky ones floated in space like broken toys. How many Krex ships? Song Min-jae asked. 42 confirmed, said Tactical Officer Lee Hyun-woo. 20 destroyers, 15 cruisers, 7 battleships. They outgun us 3-1. Song Min-jae studied the enemy formation. The Krex ships were arranged in perfect battle lines just like the military books taught. Neat rows of ships with heavy vessels in the center and smaller ones on the edges. It looked impressive and orderly. It was also exactly what she had hoped to see. Open a channel to all ships, she ordered. Communications Officer Bae Ji-won nodded. Channel open, Captain. Song Min-jae's voice carried to every human ship in the fleet. All ships, you know the drill. These aren't pirates or raiders. These are professional soldiers with professional tactics. That means they think like professionals. On the destroyer Busan Blade, Commander Oh Sung-ho smiled grimly. He understood what the captain meant. Professional soldiers followed rules. They fought the way their training taught them. They expected their enemies to do the same. Humans had learned to fight on a world that didn't follow any rules at all. Begin Operation Stormbringer, Song Min-jae ordered. We end this now. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a hurricane. The Krex Admiral Morgeth watched his sensor screens with confusion. The human ships had appeared at the edge of his territory, then suddenly broke apart in all directions. It made no sense. What are they doing? He demanded. Where is their battle formation? His tactical officer, a reptilian being with green scales, studied the displays. Unknown, Admiral. Their ships are moving at random. No pattern we can identify. Random? Morgeth's voice rose with anger. No fleet moves at random. Find their pattern, but there was no pattern to find. The human ships moved like hunting animals, each one following its own plan. Commander Oh Seung-ho took the Busan Blade into the asteroid field that surrounded the system's outer edge. The space rocks were thick here, some as big as buildings. His navigator looked worried. "Sir, flying through that field is extremely dangerous. One collision could destroy us." Oh Sung-ho's grin was sharp as a knife. "Dangerous is what we do best." The destroyer disappeared into the asteroid field like a fish diving into coral. The Krek sensors lost track of it immediately. Meanwhile, pilot Shin Yuna launched from the carrier Jeju Pride with her fighter squadron. 24 small ships that moved faster than anything the Kreks had ever seen. "Gold Squadron, follow my lead," she said into her radio. "We're going fishing." The fighters dove toward the Kreks formation, their engines screaming. The enemy ships turned their weapons toward them, expecting a normal attack run. Instead, Shin Yuna led her squadron in, a maneuver that would have killed most alien pilots. She pulled her fighter into a turn so sharp that the G-forces should have made her pass out. Behind her, the other pilots followed, their ships dancing through space like deadly birds. "Impossible," shouted the Krek's weapons officer. "No pilot can survive those forces." But humans had evolved on a world with strong gravity and violent weather. Their bodies could handle stress that would crush aliens from gentler planets. The fighters swept past the Krek's ships, firing missiles and energy. Weapons then vanished before the enemy could return fire. They struck like lightning and disappeared like ghosts. Admiral Morgeth's command ship shook as human missiles exploded against its shields. "Return fire. Destroy those fighters." But the human ships were already gone, scattered across the system. The Krek's weapons fired at empty space. Captain Song Min-jae watched the battle from the bridge of Soul's Fury. Her ship hung at the edge of the system, hidden behind a dead moon. She was waiting for the right moment. "Engineering reports all systems ready," said her chief engineer, Kang Woo-jin. "We can push the engines to 120% power." Song Min-jae nodded. Human ships were built to take punishment and keep fighting. They could handle stress levels that would tear apart vessels from peaceful worlds. "Communications, patch me through to the Villani on the planet's surface." Bei Jiwan worked at her controls. "I have them, Captain. The signal is weak but clear." A new voice came through the speakers. It was high and musical, speaking in the Villani language. The computer translated it into Korean. "Human ships, this is Elder Velshan of the capital city. We cannot believe you came. The council said no help would arrive." "The council was wrong," Song Min-jae replied. "We need you to mark the locations of Krek's ground forces. We're coming to get you out. But there are so many enemy ships. Let us worry about the ships. Just stay alive until we reach you." On the far side of the system, Commander Oh Seung-ho's destroyer emerged from the asteroid field like a hunting shark. The Busan blade had used the space rocks as cover, moving from asteroid to asteroid without being seen. Now it appeared behind the Krek's formation, in the perfect position to strike. "Target their supply ships," Oh Seung-ho ordered. "Hit them where it hurts." The destroyer's weapons tore into the Krek's rear guard. Support vessels that carried fuel and ammunition exploded in bright flowers of fire. The enemy formation began to turn, trying to face this new threat. That was exactly what the humans wanted. "Now!" Song Min-jae shouted. The Soul's Fury burst from behind the moon at full speed. The massive dreadnought accelerated beyond safe limits, its engines glowing white-hot. Around it, the other human ships converged on the Krek's formation from 6 different directions. What followed was not the kind of battle the Kreks understood. Instead of neat formations and orderly exchanges of fire, the humans fought like the storms on their homeworld. Wild, unpredictable, and deadly. Shin Yuna's fighters struck from above and below, their impossible maneuvers leaving the Krek's gunners confused and frustrated. The cruiser Daegu Thunder rammed straight through a Krek's battle line, its heavy armor, taking damage but dealing more in return. "They fight like they're insane," Admiral Morgeth screamed at his officers. "Their pilots should be dead. Their ship should be breaking apart." But the humans kept coming. Ship after ship struck from unexpected angles, used maneuvers that violated every rule of space combat, and survived hits that should have destroyed them. Dr. Han Sumin worked, frantically in the medical bay of Soul's Fury. Human casualties were mounting, but not from enemy weapons. The extreme G-forces and stress of Deathworld combat were taking their toll. Another pilot with G-force injuries reported her assistant as they carried in a fighter pilot who had pushed his ship beyond normal limits. "Treat him and get him back. To his ship," Dr. Han ordered. "We need every pilot we have." The battle raged for 6 hours. Slowly, the tide began to turn. The Creks, despite their superior numbers, found themselves pushed back by tactics they couldn't understand or counter. Communications specialist Bei Jiwan picked up enemy transmissions and translated them for Captain Song. "Admiral Morgeth is calling for reinforcements," she reported. "He says his ships can't handle the human fighting style." Song Minjae allowed herself a small smile. "What did he call it?" Bei Jiwan checked her translation again. "He said they fight like natural disasters with engines." The captain's smile grew wider. "He's starting to understand what we are." On the planet below, Elder Velshan watched the battle through a telescope from his hiding place in the ruins of his city. The human ships moved through space like silver lightning, striking and vanishing before the Creks could respond. For the first time in days, he felt something he had thought was lost forever. Hope. The Deathworlders had come, and they were winning. 3 days after the battle, Elder Velshan stood in the ruins of his capital city and watched human medical teams work alongside Villani healers. The sight still seemed impossible to him. Dr. Han Sumin had set up field hospitals in the city's main square. Her medical teams moved between the wounded with quiet efficiency. They treated Villani civilians with the same care they gave their own injured soldiers. "Doctor," Elder Velshan approached her with careful steps. His people were still nervous around the humans. The Deathworlders looked so strong, so dangerous, but their actions spoke louder than their appearance. "Elder," Dr. Han looked up from the patient she was treating. "How can I help you?" "I wanted to thank you," he said in his musical voice. "Your people saved us when no one else would come." Dr. Han smiled softly. "We couldn't let children suffer while politicians talked. It's not in our nature." Nearby, construction, teams led by architect Nam Jina, worked to rebuild critical infrastructure. They focused on hospitals, schools, and water treatment plants first. The things that kept people alive and healthy. "Why do you help us rebuild?" asked a young Villani engineer who was learning from the humans. "Your job is finished. The enemy is gone." Nam Jina wiped sweat from her forehead. "Winning the battle is easy. Winning the peace takes longer." The human ships still orbited the planet, but now they served as protection instead of weapons of war. Captain Song Minjae had positioned them to watch the space lanes for any returning Creks forces. On the Soul's Furies bridge, communications officer Bei Jiwan monitored hundreds of radio frequencies. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. "Captain," she called out, "we're receiving another transmission. This one is from the Meridian Colony in Sector 7. Song Minjae walked over to listen. The message was similar to dozens of others they had received. "Human ships, this is Governor Talneth of Meridian Colony. We heard what you did for the Villani. Pirates have been attacking our shipping lanes for months. The council says they cannot spare ships to help us. Will you come?" Before Song Minjae could respond, another message came through. "This is Mining Station Omega 4. Slavers took our children last week. The council is forming a committee to study the issue. Please, we need real help, not more meetings." Then another. "Free Trader Consortium to Human Fleet. We're willing to pay for protection. Our cargo ships are being robbed by raiders every day." Song Minjae looked at the flood of messages with growing amazement. In just 3 days, Earth had gone from being a minor galactic power to the focus of hope for half the Rim colonies. Her personal communicator beeped with an urgent message from Earth Command. Admiral Taehyun's face appeared on the small screen. "Captain Song," he said, "I need you to return to Earth immediately. We have a situation." "What kind of situation, sir?" "The good kind," Taehyun smiled. "You'll see when you get here." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. The Great Chamber buzzed with angry voices as representatives argued over Earth's actions. The humans acted without authorization. Representative Thalwin's forearms waved frantically. "They violated every protocol we have." And they saved an entire species from slavery, countered the Zephyrian delegate, her silver scales bright with emotion. Something we failed to do. Council. Chairman Vextar tried to restore order. The humans must be censured for their illegal actions. We cannot allow members to act independently. But his words fell on increasingly deaf ears. Representatives from rim worlds stood up one by one to speak. The humans did in 3 days what the council has never done, said the representative from New Terra Colony. They acted when action was needed. My people have been asking for protection for years, added the delegate from the mining guild. The council always promises to study the issue. The humans promise to end it. Ambassador Yoon Ji-ho sat quietly through the debate. He had been recalled from his embassy and ordered to explain Earth's actions. Instead, he found himself defending them. Honorable representatives, he said when called to speak. Earth's position is simple. When innocent people cry for help, we answer. We don't form committees. We don't debate. We act. Your actions were illegal, Thalwyn protested. Your inaction was immoral, Yoon replied calmly. The Villani children didn't care about your laws when the slavers came for them. The chamber fell silent. Then slowly, representatives began to stand. First the delegate from New Terra, then the mining guild representative. One by one, dozens of smaller worlds rose to their feet. If the council will not protect us, the New Terra delegate said, then we formally request protection from Earth. Seconded, called out the mining guild. Thirded, came voices from around the chamber. Thalwyn watched in horror as nearly half the council membership stood in support of Earth. You cannot do this. The council is the only legitimate authority. The council, said the elderly representative from the agricultural worlds, has forgotten that authority comes from those who are protected, not those who claim to rule. Back on Earth, Admiral Taehyun stood in the main planning room surrounded by holographic star charts. Red markers showed worlds that had requested Earth's protection. There were hundreds of them. Sir, his aide reported, 37 colonies have formally withdrawn from council protection and requested human defense agreements. 12 more are voting on it today. Communications Officer Park Min-ho, who had started everything with a single forwarded message, looked at the display in amazement. Sir, we don't have enough ships to protect all these worlds. Then we'll build more ships, Taehyun replied, and we'll train more crews. The galaxy has changed, people. We're no longer just defending Earth. We're defending everyone who needs defending. Defense Minister Lee Sung-jin entered the room with a tablet full of reports. Admiral, we've received formal requests from 43 species to join what they're calling the Human Protection Alliance. They're offering resources, technology, and personnel in exchange for security guarantees. Taehyun studied the data. The old galactic order was crumbling. Instead of one large council making decisions for everyone, smaller groups were forming around shared values and mutual protection. What do the politicians say? He asked. President, Kim wants to accept, Lee Sung-jin replied. She says Earth didn't become a spacefaring civilization to hide in our own system. We're meant to explore, to help, to make the galaxy safer for everyone. 3 weeks later, Captain Song Min-jae received a special assignment. She stood on the bridge of Sol's Fury as it approached a new star system. Intelligence reports said pirates had been raiding colonies here for months. Captain, reported Navigation Officer Lim Jae-won, we're receiving a distress signal. Put it through, Song ordered. A desperate voice filled the bridge. This is Harvest Colony 12. We're under attack by raider ships. They're taking our people. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. Song Min-jae looked at her crew. They had heard this same plea dozens of times now. Each time they had answered without hesitation. All hands prepare for combat, she announced. Time to remind the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people. As the Sol's Fury and her escort ships moved toward the colony, Communications Officer Bae Ji-won picked up chatter from the raider fleet. The humans are here, one panicked voice transmitted. It's the Deathworlders. Retreat! Retreat! But there was nowhere to run. The human ships moved with the deadly grace their enemies had learned to fear. The pirates scattered like leaves in a hurricane, abandoning their attack and fleeing toward deep space. On the planet below, the colonists watched their attackers flee and cheered. They knew they were safe now. The humans had come. Back on Earth, in the quiet of his office, Admiral Taehyun received a message from Communications Officer Park Min-ho, the young man who had started the revolution with a single forwarded signal. "Sir," the message read, "I'm monitoring galactic communications. The phrase is spreading through every system, every colony, every world that has ever faced a threat they couldn't handle alone." Taehyun opened the attached file. It contained hundreds of transmissions in dozens of languages, all saying the same thing. The humans don't send help. They send hope. And it comes armed. The Admiral leaned back in his chair and smiled. The galaxy had called humanity dangerous. They had called them Deathworlders. They had feared human violence and unpredictability. They were right to fear it. But they had misunderstood what it meant. Humans were dangerous to those who threatened the innocent. They were Deathworlders who had learned to survive anything the universe could throw at them. And they had chosen to use those gifts to protect others. The old galactic order was gone, replaced by something new. Something built not on fear and politics, but on the simple promise that when darkness came, the ships would follow. And in the depths of space, on worlds that had never known protection, children slept safely knowing that somewhere in the black, human ships stood watch. The Deathworlders had kept their word. They had not sent help. They had sent something better. They had sent hope. The battle had been raging for 18 hours. In the medical bay of Soul's Fury, Dr. Han Suman wiped sweat from her forehead as she finished treating another pilot. Her hands were steady, but exhaustion showed in her eyes. "How many more?" she asked her assistant. 6 pilots and 3 ship crew members waiting," came the reply. "Most injuries are from G-force stress, not enemy weapons." Dr. Han nodded grimly. The human ships were pushing their crews beyond normal limits. Pilots pulled turns that should have killed them. Ship crews endured accelerations that would crush aliens from gentler worlds, but they kept fighting. "Get them patched up and back to their ships," she ordered. "We're not done yet." On the bridge of Soul's Fury, Captain Song Min-jae studied the tactical display. The Krex formation was breaking apart. What had started as neat battle lines was now scattered groups of ships trying to protect each other. "Enemy casualties?" she asked. Tactical Officer Lee Hyun-woo checked his screens. 15 Krex ships destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged. They're pulling back toward the planet. "And our losses?" 3 fighters lost, 2 destroyers damaged but still fighting. The Busan Blade took heavy hits, but Commander Oh says she's still ready for action. Song Min-jae felt a surge of pride. Against impossible odds, her people were winning. But the hardest part was still ahead. "Target the Krex command ship," she ordered. "It's time to end this." The massive Krex battleship hung in orbit above the planet's capital city. Admiral Morgeth stood on its bridge, his reptilian face twisted with rage and fear. "Status report," he demanded. His tactical officer's voice shook. "We've lost over a third of our fleet, Admiral. The humans are using tactics we've never seen before. Our weapons can't lock onto their fighters. Their ships survive damage that should destroy them. They're just Deathworlders," Morgeth screamed. "Barbarians with stolen technology." "Sir," his communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a message from the human flagship." "Put it through," Morgeth snarled. "Captain." Song Min-jae's face appeared on the main screen. She looked calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. "Admiral Morgeth," she said in accented galactic standard. "I am Captain Song of the Earth vessel Soul's Fury. You will surrender immediately and withdraw from this system." Morgeth laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Surrender? You have 12 ships against my remaining 27. Your position is hopeless." "Is it?" Song Min-jae smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "Let me show you something." The screen changed to show sensor readings from around the system. Morgeth's eyes widened as he saw the truth. The human ships had not been fighting randomly. Every attack, every seemingly wild maneuver had been part of a larger plan. The Krex fleet was surrounded. "How?" Morgeth whispered. "We don't fight like you. Song Minjae explained. You form neat lines and exchange fire like gentlemen. We hunt like wolves. We surround our prey, cut off escape routes, then move in for the kill. On the planet below, Marine Corps Colonel Park Do-hyun prepared his forces for landing. 200 Marines sat in drop pods waiting for the signal to launch. Listen up, Park told his troops over the radio. The Kreks have prison camps all over the planet. Our job is to free as many Vellani as possible before the enemy can hurt them. Sergeant Lee Min-soo checked his weapon one more time. He was a 20-year veteran who had fought in 3 different wars. Sir, drop pod insertion is considered suicide by galactic standards. Are we sure about this? Park grinned. Since when do we care what's considered safe by galactic standards? The Marines laughed. They knew the risks. Drop pods were metal bullets fired from space toward a planet's surface. Most alien species thought they were too dangerous to use, but humans had learned to survive in metal boxes falling through fire and storm. 30 seconds to launch, announced the ship's computer. Corporal Yu Da-hyun was making her first combat drop. She was nervous but tried not to show it. Around her, the other Marines sat calmly in their pods, ready for whatever waited below. Remember, Colonel Park's voice came through their headphones. The Vellani are peaceful herbivores. They've never seen real combat. Many will be terrified of us too. Move fast, but be gentle with the civilians. 10 seconds to launch. The countdown finished. 200 drop pods shot from the human ships like bullets from a gun. They fell toward the planet, glowing red hot as they cut through the atmosphere. On the surface, Krek soldiers looked up in confusion as burning streaks filled the sky. They had never seen this kind of assault before. The first pods hit the ground near a prison camp outside the capital city. The metal doors blew open and human Marines poured out, their weapons ready. Sergeant Lee Min-soo's pod landed hard in the camp's courtyard. He rolled out as Krek's guards opened fire. Energy bolts whistled past his head as he took cover behind a concrete wall. Contact, he shouted into his radio. Enemy forces in the camp. More pods landed around him. Marines spread out, using cover and speed to avoid enemy fire. This was not the kind of fighting the Kreks understood. Instead of standing in lines and exchanging shots, the humans moved like hunting cats, fast and deadly. Corporal Yu Da-hyun's pod crashed through the roof of a guard tower. She kicked open the door and found herself face to face with a Krek soldier. The alien was bigger than her with thick armor and sharp claws, but Yu had trained for this. She moved faster than the alien expected, her combat knife finding the weak spot in his armor. The Kreks fell and she was already moving toward the prisoner cells. The Vellani inside the cells were thin and scared. They looked like deer, with large eyes and soft brown fur. When they saw Yu, they pressed themselves against the back walls in terror. It's okay, she said softly, using the translation device on her armor. We're here to help you. Elder Velshun, the Vellani leader, had been captured 3 days earlier. He sat in a cell with 50 other prisoners waiting to be loaded onto slave ships. When the human Marine appeared at his door, he thought he was dreaming. Are you real? He asked in his musical voice. Very real, Yu replied, breaking the lock on his cell. Can you walk? Yes, but there are hundreds of camps, thousands of prisoners. You cannot save them all. Watch us, she said. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Human Marines hit prison camps like lightning strikes. They moved too fast for the Kreks guards to coordinate a defense, freed the prisoners, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. In space, the final battle was beginning. Captain Song Minjae had positioned Soul's Fury directly in front of Admiral Morgeth's command ship. The two vessels faced each other like ancient knights preparing to duel. All weapons target their bridge, Song ordered. Weapons Officer Jung, Taeyong's hands moved over his controls. Weapons locked and ready, Captain. Sir, Shield Technician Kim Soo-young called out. They're charging their main cannon. It could punch right through our armor. Song Minjae nodded calmly. Let them fire first. On the Krek's command ship, Admiral Morgeth gave the order to fire. The massive energy cannon unleashed enough power to destroy a small moon. But the human ship was not there when the beam arrived. At the last second, Soul's Fury had rolled to one side. the deadly energy passing harmlessly through empty space. Before the Kreks could reload, the human dreadnought fired back. Human weapons were different from alien designs. Instead of single powerful shots, they fired rapid bursts of smaller projectiles. The Soul's Fury's guns spoke like thunder, sending hundreds of rounds into the enemy ship's armor. Impossible! Morgeth screamed as his ship shook under the impact. No ship can move that fast. But Soul's Fury could. Engineer Kang Woo-jin had pushed the ship's systems beyond safe limits, giving Captain Song the speed she needed to avoid. The killing blow. Their shields are down, Jung Taeyong reported. One more hit should finish them. No, Song Min-jae said quietly. Hail them. Captain? Bei Ji-won looked confused. Open a channel to their bridge. Admiral Morgeth's battered face appeared on the screen. Behind him, smoke filled his command center. Sparks flew from damaged equipment. This is over, Song Min-jae told him. Surrender now and your remaining ships can leave the system. Continue fighting and we will destroy every last one of you. Morgeth's eyes burned with hate. You think you've won? The Kreks Empire has 1,000 fleets. We will return with overwhelming force. Song Min-jae's expression did not change. Then we'll be waiting. She cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. Finish it. The Soul's Fury's guns roared, one final time. Admiral Morgeth's command ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire system. The surviving Kreks ships, leaderless and broken, began to retreat toward the edge of the system. The battle was over. But across the galaxy, something else was just beginning. The news of humanity's victory would spread through every star system, every colony, every world that had ever been threatened by those who prey on the innocent. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. They had not sent help. They had sent ships. And the galaxy would never be the same.